It began like any other Saturday morning, ordinary, calm, and unsuspecting. But for the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, May 18th, 2024 would become a date forever burned into memory. At exactly 9 a.m., dark, towering smoke began to rise above the skyline from a half-finished luxury apartment complex on Liberty Road. What was supposed to be a gleaming residence of 239 modern units had transformed into a wooden skeleton, a 7-story death trap of timber and foam insulation, dry and eager to burn. The fire started small, unthreatening at first, but within minutes, the upper floors ignited like a box of matchsticks. And inside that inferno, there were 17 men. Firefighters arrived to an immediate sense of dread. The top 5 floors were exposed, raw wood and insulation, creating a perfect path for the blaze to climb. They raced inside and managed to lead 15 workers to safety. But when they emerged, there was a chilling realization. 2 were missing. Somewhere in the heart of the building, 2 men were still inside, their cries for help swallowed by the smoke. And then, the world stopped. 30-year-old DeMonte Sherrill took out his phone and went live on Facebook. Smoke curling around him, face lit only by the trembling light of a phone flashlight. His voice cracked through the digital ether. "Yo, I'm at South Park right now, at work, and the building is on fire. I can't get out." His friend, Reuben Holmes, stood beside him, waving his flashlight frantically into the haze. Around them, visibility had dropped to almost nothing. It was hard to breathe, harder to think. But the camera kept rolling. The 6th floor, where they were trapped, had only one access point, a single stairwell, now unreachable. They had nowhere to go. The fire had surrounded them. The exit behind them was blocked. The only way out was to jump 6 stories down into fire. Back outside, firefighters scrambled. A crane was hoisted, its basket swaying like a desperate hand, trying to pull 2 men from the jaws of hell. You could even see the crane in the live stream. Wrong direction, wrong timing. A cruel taunt of salvation. At one point, rescuers may have even seen the men, but the flames pushed them back. The crane operator had to be rescued himself, and time was running out. Inside, DeMonte's voice cracked, more desperate now. He shouted into the smoke, into the void, into the screen. They screamed so loud, the rescuers could hear them, muffled, distorted through the thick wall of smoke. A glimmer of hope. But just as the firefighters began to close in, crawling through the corridor of fire on their hands and knees, the order came. Evacuate. Collapse imminent. The command echoed like a death sentence. Every unit, every rescuer was ordered out. There was no choice. They had to leave. And so they did, leaving behind the screams, which had now fallen hauntingly silent. The structure, weakened and seething with 2,000 degrees of fury, gave in to gravity and fire. It collapsed in a thunderous roar. When it was over, DeMonte Sherrill and Reuben Holmes were the only ones who never walked out. But that wasn't the end of the horror. It was only the beginning. DeMonte's live video kept circulating, being replayed, shared, consumed. His mother saw it. His brother saw it and rushed to the scene, phone in hand, begging the firefighters to watch. "Please," he said. Listen to his voice. But it was too late. The fire had done its job. The investigation revealed that a machine used to spray highly flammable, organic foam insulation had caught fire. No sprinklers, no alarms. And a critical temporary stairwell had just been removed. The construction company's oversight, so simple, so avoidable, had created a perfect death trap. For this, they were fined a mere $50,000. 2 lives, $50,000. But the horror didn't stop there. In Lynchburg, Virginia, just 2 years prior, a man named Johnny Cashman suddenly stopped answering his phone. His family, hundreds of miles away in Maine, hadn't heard from him in 6 days. Concerned, they requested a welfare check. On April 19, 2022, police found him dead on his apartment floor. The initial report? A medical emergency. GI bleeding. No foul play. No need for an autopsy. But what they missed or ignored would unearth something that still sends chills down spines. 10 days after his death, Johnny's ex-girlfriend returned to his apartment to gather belongings. She expected a quiet, somber visit. What she found was a horror scene. Blood everywhere, splashed across the walls, pooled in the bathroom, smeared across door handles. Red handprints streaked down the hallway like desperate claw marks. This wasn't a peaceful passing. This was something else. Something violent. Then came the footage. A neighbor had a security camera facing Johnny's door. At 3:03 p.m. on April 13th, Johnny entered his apartment, holding an empty glass. Everything seemed normal, but minutes later, inside the unit, chaos erupted. A man's voice screamed, "What are you doing?" followed by crashing, banging, the unmistakable sound of a struggle. Then, silence. 7 minutes later, a man, not Johnny, emerged from the apartment. He turned to leave, then paused. He looked back. He touched the doorknob with his sleeve, as if wiping off fingerprints. He stared, stunned, almost broken, then walked away. And just 1 minute later, from inside the unit, Johnny's voice echoed faintly. "Help! Help!" He was still alive, yet no one came. No one helped. No autopsy was ever performed. And 5 days later, police simply wrote it off as a natural death. The man in the footage? Eventually identified as Stephen Church, a squatter, a man with 2 felonies, and a failing job search. He said Johnny let him stay for a few days, that Johnny got drunk, that they argued, but it never got physical, according to him, except the video said otherwise. And Johnny? Cremated, forever silenced, forever unproven. The case closed as medical, but every shadow in that footage screamed otherwise. In a world full of horror, we often look to fiction for scares. But sometimes, the real world is darker than anything we could dream up. Sometimes the flames come too fast. Sometimes help doesn't arrive. And sometimes, the monsters walk away, unseen, untouched. And the worst part, we'll never really know what happened. But the ghosts, they remember.